Hey, there we are.
Oh,
So
hey, now I think we're live. Wait a
my
minute.
little live on Facebook.
Yeah, it's saying it's setting up your meeting. Done. Redirecting. Hey,
All
there
right.
we go. Now I think we're live. Hey-oh. Okay, cool. So yeah, anybody who's here to try and watch the Goddammit Zach program, I have taken it over. Fuck Zach Glazer. He went diving. He left me in the lurch.
Radio Free Skeeter Green.
Since he left me in the lurch, we're going to call this RPG Uncensored with Skeeter Green. And I've wanted to do this for like a year. And I wanted to have this cat as my first guest. This is Levi Combs of Planet X Games.
Hey,
So, Levi Combs, tell me about you. Tell everybody what you do for a day job.
I work for the Air Force. Work in marketing and ticketing. I send people to Disneyland. Basically, that's all day long, and then just catch.
My wife needs to talk to you because she loves Disneyland.
Yeah, bring it on. Send them
We're
our way.
going
Send
in
them
a couple of weeks.
good tickets. I got, I got
Yeah.
I got all the inside skinny.
Awesome. Awesome. So,
It's a really boring job, man. It's very it's operations management. It just it's looking at charts all day, and there's nothing exciting to really say. It's not like any of my other jobs that I had in the past. So it's
but
very
it but it sounds exciting.
well. There you go. Not a whole lot going on.
So, a couple of years ago, a guy we both know by the name of Casey Christofferson told me when I was working with Frog God Games about this cat that he knew, Levi Combs, and he wanted to write some game material, and it was a very grindhouse style, and that's the way he sold it to me.
All right.
And at the time, it was like, this is not going to fit in with anything that Frog God is doing. Um, I love the idea, the way he pitched it, but it wasn't going to work. And then lo and behold, here I see this beautiful bald man making these grindhouse adventures. Explain to everybody who may not know, what's your version of grindhouse? Because I think
Um,
it really does sum up what you do, and it's great.
I like a more of I don't know how do you go about this.
It's hard,
I
isn't it?
Oh yeah. I'm a big fan of genre and exploitation movies, B movies, and really just bad cinema in general. Although a movie doesn't have to be, bad cinema to be grindhouse or a B movie. Just I like those kind of films. I always have.
Oh yeah.
Um, the old sci-fi stuff to the the kind of cutting edge experimental stuff they did in the '70s. I like all that stuff. I mean, I'm just a film lover in general, but that era of film, the Grindhouse era, is just that's one of my favorites. And I thought that's the kind of games I would like to play. Stuff that kind of played on all those tropes and themes that you find in Grindhouse films. Um, I like that cinematic style of play. And I wasn't really seeing a ton of stuff out. I mean, there was some stuff, but there was a ton of things out there that really fit into that kind of style of play that I enjoyed. So I kind of thought, well, let me bring that to RPGs or just a game or two and see how it translates. And lo and behold, it translated pretty good. I mean, at least for me.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
does.
in my games, it translated pretty well. So I decided I was going to write games that I wanted to play, stuff that interested me. Kind of had that cinematic and B movie flair to it.
Right. So talk about Mummy Bride.
So Mummy Bride, me making games in general, it really started as this as a my oldest son. He got into D&D completely separate from me. I kind of really slowed down on that. I was still buying a book here and there, and reading online and whatnot. And of course, our Casey was a good friend of mine, so anytime he put something out, I'd read it. But
he's a criminal.
God, that guy, he makes. I mean, his bibliography is ridiculous. I mean, you look at all the stuff that he's made. Like, who makes that much content? He's like
I am familiar with his content.
How productive he is. And then all the stuff he's doing on the side, it's ridiculous. But my son, he was like, "Hey, do you know anything about Dungeons and Dragons?" I'm like, "Well, actually, I do. I played for a long time. Anyway, so I started playing D&D with him, and like all fathers and their teenage sons, you try to connect with your kids, And I thought, well, how else to look more cool to my kid than to have, to write and publish an adventure. So that's kind of where that came from. And I originally tried doing it through, my one connection in the industry, which was Casey. I said, "Hey, do you know buying this stuff?" And he's like, "Well, you got some good ideas here, or, nice concepts. Let me run it up the flagpole and see what happens." And, it came back, "Hey, they're not really looking for this kind of stuff. They'll buy your module, maybe, if you take all this other stuff out of it, and just kind of, present it as is." And I was like, "That's not really what I want to do." So, so he's like, "Your best option is to just do it yourself." He says, "Just go and do it yourself." So, it took me a little hemming and hawing to do that, but without him kind of pushing me, going, "Look, you can do this. Like, here's a dozen Kickstarter pages. They did it. Why can't you?" And
that first step is a tall one. Once you get past that first step and decide, "Yep, I can do this," then, I mean, it's not necessarily ever an easy road.
Well,
but yeah.
No, you look out there and you see, yeah, there are other people doing this stuff, and everybody has their own kind of certain way they want to do things, or their own spice they want to add to the chili or whatever. But if I hadn't had him at first kind of pushing me, and my best friend too, he was like, he runs a small publishing company as well, and he was saying, "Look, this is something you could do. I mean, look, if nobody, the thing is, write something that you want to do, write something that you like. And if somebody else likes enough to buy it, that's just extra,
Right.
That's the reward is that you made a piece of art that, that you like. Are you happy with it? Well, then there you go. If somebody else likes it enough to pay money for it, then bonus." And I thought about that for
absolutely.
a while. I don't know if I call my stuff art, but I certainly enjoyed it, and I enjoy writing it, and it's looking like it's going to be like that's how Planet X came into being. That's how my tiny little indie publishing company that could.
Well, I got to tell you, man, Mummy Bride was what got me off the sidelines and made me finally release Crypt of the Science Wizard. Was seeing how well Mummy Bride came out. And I got that, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, well, fuck, I need to do this. This is a thing I need to do. And really just the aesthetic, the art and the writing is just top shelf. And I'm glad you stuck to your guns and did it the way you wanted. That's what more people need to do. I mean, WotC can put out their stuff where they have to appeal to the mass market, but there's got to be boutique publishers that can put stuff on the edge. And I'm not saying be all fringy and psychotic with your releases.
No,
for anybody, because I mean, there's some lines you just don't need to go over, but there needs to be something beyond, orc and pie. There's got to be some stuff that's got some flavor, and that's what appeals to me about the Grindhouse thing. Is some of these are a little bit dirty and a little bit grungy, and it's like you can hang out with your friends and tell some rude or off-color jokes, and you're not hurting anybody, but you're kind of a little bit more edgy than standard fare. And I think that's great. I think people need to understand that they can do that and it's okay.
No, for sure. I think as long as your work, that the whole, whatever you're writing, adventure wise, as long as the idea isn't just to be shocking,
Right.
as long as like the whole point of this is to make you go, oh, tear your hair out. Oh my God.
Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
Yes.
I'll say it. It's RPG Uncensored. I can say anything I want. People kick me off the interwebs.
Look, well, there's stuff they do that I like, and there's stuff that I don't care too much for. It's kind of a mixed bag with them for me. But I think as long as your goal isn't to be shocking all the time, and it's okay to have that kind of material in your work.
Yeah.
You really should just do what you want, honestly. And if people like it, they'll buy it. If
right.
they money talks, they're not gonna buy it.
Consumers vote with their money.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, almost all the everything, all the independent stuff, I don't buy, other than the three core books. I don't have any 5e stuff. That I think those are the only 5e products I have that aren't from an independent or smaller publisher than WotC. And all the best stuff that I'm seeing is all third party stuff, or not third party stuff, but stuff. All I'm running at my table with my guys. It's all almost exclusively independent stuff.
Yeah, independent publishers, support independent publishers. It's really, I mean, I feel like super old saying this, but it's kind of the punk rock version of gaming. You're doing stuff that's authentic to what you want to do, and don't listen to what other people say, because that's one of the things at our level, yours and mine, we do need to take advice. Look what people have done before us and do better or go forward. Don't stay stagnant with what has already been done. I mean, Against the Giants was great, but I don't want to write that particular series of adventures again.
Right.
I want to do stuff where you are Indiana Jones in a jungle, or you're in a desert and there's a tomb that is trying to kill you. I don't want to have encounter A, you expend X amount of resources and you get Y treasure. That doesn't interest me at all.
Oh, yeah, not at all.
Yeah, either playing or writing. That's ridiculous. So what's up next? What does Planet X have for us next?
I got a bunch of stuff coming. Actually,
now is your time, man.
Yeah, I don't want to hog the whole show by talking about all the crap that I got coming up, but
this show is about you, mister.
Nobody
wants to hear about me.
Don't agree with that. I'll blast out a couple things really, really quick. I have a Zine, an OSR Zine, my first OSR project that's coming out. It's either going to be mid to late January or maybe at the earliest February. But it's called The Phylactery, like a Lich's phylactery. And it's just like a little, it starts out, it's going to be a Kickstarter. It's going to start out 24 pages, black and white interior, color cover. And it's one of those, it's a Zine that's designed to let you mine for ideas. Okay. But in that Grindhouse style, that kind of strange style that I've been kind of putting forth in the modules. One of my favorite things about products like the old Arduino Grimoire, or any of those old products that were just filled with flavor and crunch and these great ideas, was that I never played Blackmore. I never played the Howling Tower and Arduino, man, but I stole ideas from those, or a little just a board here or an NPC here, and I mined those books for ideas, and that's kind of what I'm doing with this. It's meant, every couple pages is something new. You've got an adventure, you got a bunch of monsters, you got spell books, you got magic items, you got adventure scenario. There's all sorts of stuff that you can just mine for your own game. You can take it or you can leave it, but hopefully there's enough in there that you see that you want to use, or maybe crib an idea here, or cut this and insert it in your campaign. That's the whole idea. And you've got a nice low price point. The art is gorgeous. I got
awesome.
The primary artist is Ed Bickford. He did some stuff in Howling Crater, and he's done a bunch of stuff for the next big module that I have, which is called Escape from Skullcano Island, and that's like a high level kaiju giant monster lost island. It's like Isle of Dread on crack, but I throw it in giant rampaging kaiju, and there's a apocalyptic doomsday cult that there's all kinds of stuff. But
I was talking to Casey about some ideas for an adventure, and I said somebody needs to just bust out a high level adventure that's just gonzo batshit that can really challenge somebody. And he said Skullcano Island. Just that was all he. And then I came up with like 3 more things that I said, and he said Skullcano Island. Skullcano Island. I'm just like, okay, I'm getting the hint.
Yeah, there's some strange stuff in there, man. But it's not science. The last one, the Incurrence at Howling Crater, it was a tough sell for some people because that's a sci-fi genre mashup with heroic fantasy. Now, when you play
I am familiar.
Yeah, exactly. So you get it plays very heroic fantasy, but that sell, when people see the word robot or you see a gun or something, it's a little for your average heroic fantasy D&D player. It's a little that's a dangerous buy.
It's a tightrope you got to walk. When I did it for Science Wizard, I had to explain things and describe it so it looked like it was a magical thing that was happening, but everything was based in science. So you can ignore that part. You can totally ignore it and just say, "Oh, it's magic." But if you get into it, you start to go, "Oh shit, that is a chemical reaction that happened. That's not science." So yeah, it definitely hits a specific audience, and there are some people who just aren't going for it, and that's fine. I didn't write it for everybody. I wrote it for me.
As you find, as you know, this stuff finds its audience eventually. Yep. You did well on that Kickstarter. You did really good, man. And as far as all around, but as far as funding, you did really, really good on that Kickstarter. So
I was very happy. Thank you, backers.
And then on the back end, you got everything else that comes in the back end, and then it lives. It constantly finds new audiences.
Yeah.
So again, it's a tough sell up front, but on the back end, word starts to get around and people are playing it. It's a little bit of an easier sell on down the line.
Well, and that was my goal, was to get that. I did an interview with Matt Finch, and I brought up I wanted to set this up to be modular so it could be played at a convention, because that's really the only time I get to play anymore. I don't have a home group, so I have these 4-hour blocks. And as I'm writing it, I'm thinking, okay, how far are they going to get in the first hour? What's going to be the 2-hour break point? Where are they going to be? And it has, I've been play testing it for a year, and it has been almost universal. It exactly chops off at the same point when we play. So it works out great for a convention module. I'm really happy about that, and reception has been good too. So
did you write that for convention play?
Yeah.
There you go.
So it was, well, not necessarily convention play, but it was written for that modular nature. Like, I mean, we're adults now. We have lives. So having a 12-hour gaming session, that is the unicorn now. Plus I would probably need a nap. But yeah, you know, it has not necessarily stopping points, but there are break points in it that makes it logical stopping. Like, okay, you're up to this obstacle. Okay, we're gonna call it right here. We're gonna go and meet up next week.
Or
So
we've
that
completed
was,
level 2 next week, however, right?
yeah, yeah. So that was one of the key important things to me, was that it was modular. And when I was writing it, I was thinking about 2 hour blocks. Like,
Mm.
what are they going to figure out in 2 hours? Because, you know, at conventions, you can run 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever in these sessions. So I wanted it to fit. I didn't want there to be like, okay, you're going to do it at the end of 4 hours. You're almost there. That's the most irritating thing about convention play that can even happen, is like, what? I'm out of time. I can't do it. So I wanted to give.
Well, let me ask you this: have you had any? So after releasing Science Wizard, did you have any not negative reaction, but like, did anybody have any kind of like, as far as the content goes, did anybody have any? Was there any backlash over any of the content that you put in there? Because RPG Twitter, it is a minefield. You never know what you're going to get over there.
Oh, fuck those people. So I left Twitter because of the RPG do-gooders, and there was an incident a couple of years ago. I was on apparently the wrong side of it, and some motherfucker threatened my wife. And I was like, okay, if you want to have an issue with me, that's cool. I've grown up. Bring it.
Right.
Don't bring my family into this. That has nothing to do with anything. And that was one of the things that made me think, okay, these people are ridiculous. And there's that, I didn't really have any worry that they would actually do something, because none of these people talk any of this shit face to face. But yeah, I was done. It's like, nope, not gonna do that. That's why I put on my Twitter, I'm just here for the games, no agendas.
Yeah. Well, that's actually one of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten, just as for social media and as a small publisher in general, was I'm just here for the games.
Right.
Like if you go to Alex Kammer's Twitter,
mm-hmm.
He's just going through a methodical, just meticulous countdown of TSR products. He's talking about the product, what he likes about him, what he doesn't like. He shows a picture. You go back every day. It's like clockwork. It's always there. But
right.
It's never any bullshit. There's never any arguing or any wringing of the eyes or none of that stuff. It's exactly what you would want from a social media account. And I put that together with I'm just here for the games, man. That's my motto. Like I'm not here for anything else. I got a million other social media accounts if you want to yell at me for something else. But for throughout all this, let's just keep it about the games.
Yeah. Let's get back to your Instagram account a little bit later on, because your Instagram account is what I do all day when I'm supposed to be working. I'm just scrolling on my phone going, oh man, awesome. Awesome. Oh,
yeah, it's pretty.
Somebody is trying to call me. Damn it. Yeah, that all threw me off. Yeah, and I get super invested and emotional in that kind of shit. I can be baited very easy. But the difference with me is I will say this shit to somebody's face to face. So I would never say something online I am not prepared to say to somebody to their face. And regret. I mean, I've been punched in the face. You can't be like this without having been hit in your face at some point. But yeah, no. As far as Alex's Twitter account, that's really the way it should be done. And I should not let these people get to me, but sometimes it's just so ridiculous.
No, look, like it happens to us all, to everyone. But I like the. I'm just saying that I like the. It's always the same. It's there's never any bullshit or any crybaby stuff or he's not wringing his hands over something. You know, it's just, hey, let's just talk about games, which is what I think a social media account should be, or for a game at least. Nobody wants to hear about, you know, anything else. Let's just talk about games. So that what I'm saying is that was a really good piece of advice, I feel like, from you that I got early. I got it. You told me that at North Texas, and I was like, yeah.
Now that
about the games.
North Texas was the first time you've been to a convention in a while, right?
Yeah, that was the one that drew me back. It was almost universal. Everyone says, hey, if you're going to do this, you have to go to this convention. It's the most fun. This you have the most fun there. And it was by the second day I realized, like, this is the most fun I've ever had at a convention. It was really well put together. Everybody was so nice.
Oh my God, we got to get you out to Game Hole then.
Yeah, that's actually on my list. This I would have gone this year, but you know, I got a little guy, like a 3-year-old.
Yep.
It's important. So we had to stick around here. So, but if
your mind will be blown. I love North Texas. I've been there the last 10 years straight, 9 years straight or something. There is no convention like Game Hole. It is a meticulous German machine. It's just run. North Texas is crazy. It's kind of like either a going away party or like a bachelor or bachelorette party. I mean, North Texas is just crazy. Shit can happen. You have no idea. And the auction, oh my God. That's just purely insane. The fact that my wife and my adopted sister are now going to be running the auction.
Oh,
Mike Bottolato, you're losing your grip. Yeah, it's insane. But that is, and when you were talking about it, about going, that's a great one for guys like you that are small publishers and want to come into that group of the old TSR luminaries and people who are available to answer questions.
No, for sure.
Everybody's good there.
I gotta say, I don't know what this speaks to, but so far, over the last year and a half or so, I've had no bad interactions. I haven't had one interaction where I went away from it where I was like, that guy was a dick, you know, or, you know, thinking like, what happened there? You know, what was the deal with that? Haven't had one. And I know it's coming. I know that eventually the luck will run out, but I'm lucky, man. I've had nothing but great encounters with everybody. Everybody on a professional level that I've met, super cool.
So we'll say the last 10 years, I don't know how many it's been for, I go to North Texas every year. Game Hole is my 5th year that I've been to. And this coming up will be my 2nd year going to TotalCon. There's a lot of conventions over that time period. I've had 3 bad interactions with people.
That's still a pretty good track record.
That is an amazing that's an amazing record considering how I am with people. I mean, I'm like this. It takes about 30 seconds for me to go, oh shit, I should not have said that.
Very stream of consciousness.
Yeah, very much. And it has gone over relatively well. The people, I had two people that were luminaries that were dicks, and I had one other person who's not a luminary that was a dick recently. So, um, but other than that, far outweighed with the people that are super cool that I've met that are just fantastic and always willing to sit down and talk. Just shoot the shit.
Yeah. I mean, guys that, I spent, my child and teen years, looking through books that they wrote or they had art in, and they'll just sit down and talk to you about Kentucky whiskey or fishing or, roadside oddities, whatever whatever it is, they'll just, start going off, and they're interesting. And they're cool. And what was it that it may have been that that it was either you or Casey that said this earlier this year. You said that we're all just the same version, no, different versions of the same guy. Was that you?
No, that's Casey. That's some Casey level wisdom right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been around some shit that would curl your toes, because he used to go to Gen Con. And I mean, there are a number of Gen Con stories I can share with you off the air. But yeah, it really is. It's RPGs are a big enough group that you can find your family in that group. And it's the time when we were 10, 11, 12, where you have your friends, you think you're going to have your friends for life, and then life happens and then they go away. Now I have these people that are my friends that still don't have the maturity of a 12-year-old, but we're friends again, for life. So it's RPGs can be a really good thing if people can knock off their bullshit and just play games.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, this may sound weird, but I still have the nostalgia and I can appreciate the wonderment that I had for the games when I was younger. Even on up being a young man, I can appreciate that nostalgia and how it made me feel, and the wonderment, and like, oh, I have this all like very exciting. But I find it all much more appealing now. As I'm 45, I find it all much more appeling today than
Damn
I
kids.
ever did then. And no, I mean, like I said, I've got kids, and they, my oldest son, he plays. So, I enjoy it I guess on a different level, or just in a different way now than I did then. But I'm getting more out of the enjoyment of role playing games now than I think I did then.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get that. A couple of years ago, I finally got my wife Jen to play in a game. It was her, one of her coworkers. So I had two teachers and another friend of mine, and we played for a long time, a couple of years. And she enjoyed it enough. She has continued to play, and now she's teaching kids in middle school. She's passing it along to them, so she's running games for them in middle school. And she started a D&D club at her school just from some of the extra books and stuff that I've donated to the school. And now I get to watch her be the DM for these kids, and it's a whole generational, resurgence. And right now that is just, I'm tickled pink. I think that is better than writing a book, is giving her the ability to give other kids the ability to play the game. And
Cool.
that's the giving back that I always wanted to be able to do.
I remember it's also seeing it through a different set of eyes. If you know what I mean. So
yeah.
I ran my son and his friends through White Plume Mountain, and it's one of those classic modules. A lot of us have multiple times, but the way it ended, there's a volcano and they had the cube of force. And they trapped themselves in the cube of force. They shot out the geyser at the top of the volcano. I'm like, I ran this module a half a dozen times. I bet I played it another half a dozen times. That has never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
So out of their minds, like they were going insane over, all these encounters, and then how they escaped via geyser and a cube of force. They're losing their minds over how this module is playing out. And I had to tell them afterwards, like I said, dozens
Where did that come from?
What happened here?
Yeah.
So seeing like how enthusiastic they were, they're high-fiving each other at the table. That for me, I was like, all right, cool dad moment right here. I got to run a game that my kid is going to remember the same way I remember the games, for when I was his age.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I've gotten to be in a bunch of Bill Webb's games at conventions, and he runs a large table, 20 people at the table, crazy huge. There was a time he was running a game, and there was, I don't know, 10 or 12-year-old boy at the end of the table. The kid ran the game. Everything that Bill came up with a challenge, the kid had an answer and figured it out. It was amazing to watch. He ended up giving him just like one book of everything in the Frog God, catalog, just to hand this kid, here, take this stuff. You're a genius. When you're old enough, we want you to write for us, this whole thing. And it was really fantastic because, it was stuff that you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
You get kind of jaded, and I went through a period a couple of years ago where I got really down on the industry and got really just jaded and didn't want to do it anymore. But there's always something, if you wait just long enough, something will spark, and it's like, oh shit, that's exactly what I needed, and then you get excited again, and then it builds up, and yeah, it's really, if anybody is out there and questioning whether you should go to a convention, try it out once.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, for sure.
Absolutely.
And ideas for stuff come from the weirdest places too. I mean, from the most bizarre place. I mean, you could be not just from like going to see a movie or reading a good book, or maybe you went and saw a cool play or whatever. But sometimes you can, an idea will just spring forth from a cool conversation you had on a plane with somebody, or maybe an encounter you had in a bar, where you just got in a conversation with somebody at the bar, and the next thing you know, you're at home and you're like 4 hours deep in writing because you can't get this stuff out of your head,
Right.
You never know when that stuff's going to come. Like the horror out of Hag's Jaw, the one that is going to be coming out from Necromancer Games.
Talk it up, man.
Oh yeah, I forgot we got to talk.
This is your point. This is why you're here. Talk up the product, brother.
Yeah. No, so Indiegogo, Necromancer Games, the horror out of Hagjaw, a very Lovecraftian style heroic fantasy adventure. Ancient curses, horrible hags, a gelatinous horror in a ruined church. It's all there. If there's a Lovecraft trope that doesn't make you sick to your stomach, it's going to be in there. And it might, but it's also very much
shit, man.
Also a heroic adventure, heroic fantasy. It's definitely D&D, but by way of Lovecraft.
So that brings up a very interesting segue.
No fishmen.
Why are you hating on Zach? He's gonna come back as a fish man. So that actually brings up a very interesting point. How do you feel about the role-playing game Call of Cthulhu?
It's my second favorite. And it might be my favorite if I had ever had more people to play with. Every time a rule book came out, I always bought it. I don't know if you can see behind me, but I'm a pretty big Lovecraft fan. I mean, we're talking, got probably 300 Lovecraft books back here or Belknap or whoever, but Robert E. Howard, all that old pulp stuff. I'm a huge fan. and have been ever since I was a young man. I mean, I've never stopped collecting Lovecraft. So I'm a massive Call of Cthulhu fan. I think the best, I got a lot of flack for this on online, but I think the best adventure module ever written was Mass of Nyarlathotep. It's one of my favorites.
That's one of those ones that you can't really argue against.
So good.
Yeah. I mean that is what multi-stage adventures are written. Are written to emulate. I mean that the just the breadth of the whole thing and how it ties so well together. You can't say no, that's a shitty adventure. That you're just disqualified from everything if you say that.
No, it's amazing. It's a masterpiece, man. I love it. I've never been able to finish it. Unfortunately, you never have a group that can stay together for 2 years that it takes to finish it. But I played it in multiple stages and just read the shit out of it. I mean, it has the best handouts. It has the best overall world-spanning story. It's impeccably written. It's impeccably laid out. I love it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Cthulhu. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm writing a psychological thriller series for Necromancer games.
Excellent.
That is trying to emulate that kind of going from one point to the next point to the next point to the next point, and it's fucking hard. It's really hard to do because finding a good break point and then a tie-in and then imagining that the characters decide, I don't want to do that, and it's like, okay, well, I wrote all this for nothing.
Oh man, all of mine have been very sandboxy adventures. I really enjoy getting box. And when that, if they're going to have a flow like that, that's not something that I've taken on real strong so far. So
and I am not even suggesting anything I'm going to do is anywhere close to masks. No, so please do not, out there in the webiverse, do not assume I'm comparing myself to that. No way. But the reason I was asking you this question is there's a possibility, strong possibility, that at the very least, SGP might be releasing a Call of Cthulhu adventure. And I'll throw it out there right now. You want to write something?
Well, I mean, probably.
Yeah.
Just depends.
Collaboration.
Depends on when you do it, and
right.
But I like to do stuff that interests me, and if I'm going to work with somebody, it helps to like them, and we get along. So
no, and I'm terrible about schedules. My schedule is it'll get released when it's done.
Yeah.
So that's I got people giving me shit. When is the second part of Science Wizard coming out? And I'm like, eventually. When I write it, I don't know. There's currently a lot of irons in the fire right now. So
good. That's the way it should be, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to plan, but when it's a one-man operation and you're juggling everything on your own, it gets a little hectic. Luckily, I have a couple people that I work with that are awesome. The graphic designer that I hired for the second one, she's going to be a permanent part, I think, permanent fixture of Planet X. She was fantastic. In fact, I put so much on this poor woman, and she delivered at such a high rate, man. And she's so happy and so cheerful, and she brings such a good energy to the room, man. Tracy Steele, if you're watching, I appreciate you. Please don't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's great to give shout outs to people like that, especially if they're new to the industry. This last year, we in general got wonky who was wasn't sure he wanted to do it. And then he came to North Texas and now he's the man. He's in demand. So very, very fortunate to bring in people who aren't sure they want to do it. Just sometimes we got to grab them and bring them in.
Yeah, he so I had 6 artists working for Skullcano Island, and he delivered first, and he delivered a very high quality of work. He just, when you collaborate with people like that, he's just, I can't speak any more highly of him. You know, he asked all the right questions. He brought a good attitude, and he just, you know, you can't. Those are the kind of people you have to cherish, to hold in your hand, because there are who, you know, I'm not saying with this project, but there are, you know, if you have 6 or 5 others who just, you know, do not come with that kind of energy. I've been really lucky. I mean, Adrian Landeros, Ed Bickford, Lawrence Hernandez, Keelan, all those guys, they've all brought a really high level of enthusiasm, and they get it. Like,
right.
Yeah. Like the Grindhouse thing, it's something. It's literally a subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre.
Oh yeah.
So you either get it, like what we're trying to do, or you kind of you don't. It's just not for you. So, and all those guys got it. They understand. Oh, okay. Like, it has to have a certain look. It has to have a certain feel. And I didn't have to really, you know, dig my thumbs in deep or you know, get too crazy. They just got it.
Yeah. Adrian did the cover for Science Wizard, and I think I may have given him like 2 sentences of notes and said, hey, I want it to kind of look like this, kind of do this. And he gave me this thing right off the bat, and I'm like, yeah, we'll go with that.
Hey, listen, that guy, he is something special. I'm gonna have to move here because I think I'm about to run out of power. But that guy's something special, man. I think he's going to be a big name one day. He's really going to be.
And he's a kid.
Yeah, 19. And
yeah.
I mean, that guy, he's amazing. I can't speak more highly of him. He's, and again, he's worked on every project that I've had, and not a complaint, never turned anything in late. He's just been the man. You know, just through the whole thing. He's incredible. And sorry about this.
A ton of work from Frog God Games. He's a machine.
Yeah, the guy just keeps delivering and delivering and delivering. He's killer.
Yeah, it's go ahead.
I said, and he's a great guy too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic to find those resources that are able to do this kind of stuff. I mean, I would love to put out a product and have Jeff Easley or Larry Elmore do the cover for it, but I think the odds of that are nope and no fucking way. I mean, I'm just not going to be able to do that. Yeah. So,
you know, I think the one guy who I don't think is like that at all is probably Errol Otis, because he just seems to kind of he does what he wants to do. It doesn't matter if it's somebody who's big, small, as long as they can meet his reasonable rates, you know. I mean,
right.
Daryl fucking Otis.
Yeah. You know? Well, my issue with Elmore and Easley is I can't speak when I'm within 5 feet of them. So I mean, I have watched Jeff do his paintings at North Texas probably half a dozen times. Stood there, just watched him. I mean, he gets house paint and a house brush and just knocks out this shit on a board that is amazing. And I'm like, he'll turn around and like smile, and I get scared and spin away and walk off. So yeah, it's just another reason to come to North Texas is these guys are just there hanging out.
Accessible, just hanging out at their table, no line. They're just, and they're nice as could be. You know, they've had so many fan interactions over the years. There's no bullshit left in those guys. You sit down and you can sit down and talk to Larry Elmore for 30 minutes and he's just cool. You know.
Oh yeah, one of the sweetest guys ever. Just nice dude. One of the things that always makes my brain pop is when we're at North Texas, I'll be coming out of the dealer's room, like going up towards the front of the hotel, and out of the corner of my eye at a table just sitting there is this little small demure woman, and then this crazy old man with this big floppy hat, and it's Darlene and Jim Wampler just sitting there hanging out talking, and I'm like, this is not really happening. There's no way this could be happening. But yeah,
that was another guy that I found to be extremely nice to me. You know, me coming in as somebody, I'm like, yeah, I don't know anybody here. You know, I got Casey introduced me to a few people, but you know, by and large, I didn't know anybody. And Jim Wampler he was so nice and so forthcoming with just little bits of advice and just kind words. You know, that kind of stuff to guys like little guys like me, that's worth its weight in gold. You can't, I mean, a kindness like that to pay to a nobody, that's, you know, that's something special.
So Wampler was telling me, we've gotten relatively close over the years. He is my mentor. Oh. He is my Yoda. And we were talking about some deep shit at one point, getting really kind of off into the weeds. And he's like, well, you know, 'cause I think it was when I was starting to figure out my Kickstarter or needed some advice or something at some level. And he's like, well, the advice I'm giving you is similar to the advice Tim Kask gave me years ago. So you're like 2 people removed from original TSR first employee. And I was just like, shut up, get offline. I'm done. I'm not worthy. But Jim has been a fantastic friend to me for a number of years. And one of these days I'll have to figure out some grand gesture to embarrass the shit out of him.
Well, it just goes back to what you were saying, or what Casey was saying before, was that, you know, we're all just, you know, different versions of the same guy. You know, we all come from that. We love games, we love sitting around a table telling stories or writing, you know, or just playing through stories. You know, I mean, in fact, you know, Casey is my mentor. And the way that I met him it's just such a random, odd, just collision of events that if one of those things hadn't happened, you know, I wouldn't even be talking right now. I wouldn't have never started a little indie company. I would never written modules. You know, I was at I think it was 11 or 12 years ago. I was at a con in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Conestoga was what it was called. Okay. And Rappahatnock had been out for like a year, and I decided I was going to, another DM and we decided we were going to run a 24-hour Rappahatnock game session, you know, where he and I would do like 6-hour shifts, whatever. And I'd never met Casey before, didn't know who he was, had no idea that he had written anything. Had seen it, you know, had just bumped into him in the dealer hall. And I told everybody we're taking a break, 5 minutes to use the bathroom, whatever, come back. I come back to the table like 10 minutes later, and there's this guy running my game. And, yeah, you know, I used to be a pretty wild dude, you know, for what it's worth, but I was like, all right, hold up. This is either like the biggest, like most disrespectful thing ever, or all right, hold. Let's see what's happening. You know, it turns out that he was a contributing author in one of the books, you know, and he explained it to me, and I was like, oh holy shit, this is cool. But I came back to the bathroom, and like 2 PCs were dead. Yeah. There was an iron that was breathing on somebody. I mean, I was just,
oh yeah, no, that's super Casey right there.
like, I was gone for 10 minutes and 2 of you are dead. How, you know, anyways, that started off a friendship that, you know, over the years we just kept in contact. Even when I really wasn't playing a whole lot of D&D, or I wasn't into general a ton, we still stayed in contact. And you know, and now we're here. So, yep.
Yeah. So I hate to admit this, but Casey actually gave me really my big break with Necromancer games. I was a message board nerd, and I was like the third or fourth person who got on the Necromancer games message boards when it first came out, 2002
Remember?
or something like that. And Casey was one of the writers, and he hated doing the game mechanics for third edition. So he wanted some traps done or something.
Hey.
And I could figure it out. So I whipped out all these traps for everything, and it just kind of built up, doing a little bit more game mechanic stuff, and he would concentrate on the writing. So we developed a pretty good rapport about that. And then I went to Gen Con, and I'm walking down the street, and there's this dude in front of me with this, you know, wavy, flowing blonde hair swishing around like he's some kind of California surfer boy. And I'm like, Casey. And he spins around and cocks his fist back like he's going to punch me. And I'm like, it's Skeeter. And he's like, yeah, you know, big hug. And all these people are like, oh shit, what's happening? And that's how I finally got to meet Casey in person.
I think things like this, they're easier if you have like a mentor, if you have somebody help you out, like you've been to Keelan, you know, like it's easier if you know, if somebody kind of, you know, not holds your hand, but says, hey, like, let me introduce you to a couple people, or let me, hey, you know, like you were thinking about doing that thing. Maybe we talk to this guy over here about that thing, you know, not necessarily for like, you know, business or whatever, just for advice and just a different like set of eyes on whatever you're doing. You know, Casey was that guy for me. You know, he really, and I know we're talking a lot about Casey today, but like
somebody has to. The dude's got no life.
he really was that guy for me, you know, and it still is. I mean, he's the project leader on the Horror Out of Hag's Jaw, that module that's coming out from Necromancer, which should be dropping like any day now. So, you know, hopefully, hey,
come on, frogs, get on it. Just because Zach's underwater doesn't mean you can stop working.
No, he's, and the art that he got for that. I mean, and the layout guys, the editors especially. Some Jeff Harkness. Yeah, great editor. His stuff came back, and I was like, wow, like this guy, he knows his stuff. Like it was, I was really.
Yes, he does.
I literally sent him an email saying, hey man, like thank you so much for making this better than it was. You know, he just tightened it up like nobody's business. You know, those kind of folks, man, they're worth their weight in gold. And you gotta, like I was saying earlier with Tracy, you really gotta you gotta cherish them, you know, while you got them. So
well, and that's one of the things as a small publisher. If you don't have friends or people who know the larger publishers, you don't have access to those people just because you haven't made the connection.
Right.
So, you know, like having to stumble through that or figure out, you know, how am I going to edit this? I mean, you can't edit your own stuff. That's your 2-cent bit of advice. I don't give a shit who you are. Have somebody else look at your stuff. You know, and that's what I want to do. I kind of want to be a RPG producer. I mean, I don't necessarily don't want to write, but I know there are people that can write better than me, and I want to get them hooked up with an editor or a distributor or artists or whatever people need, because there needs to be more RPG writers out there.
Oh, hell yeah, man. But then again, I don't really think you should write if you don't have something that you want to say. Like,
right.
We all know those people who are just cranking out stuff just because they want a little bit of money. There's not really a heart or soul, and again, we're talking about games and RPGs, but when I say heart and soul, I mean like something that they're interested in. They're just going, it's kind of a paint by numbers sort of thing. And, they're in the small margin, but they're out there. I mean, we've all seen it. But if it's something that you want to play, that you see something in it that, you want to do, I really think that's the way to go, and if I get to the point where I'm like, I just don't have anything else that I want to write, I've written all the games I want to, I'll just stop,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm same boat as you. I would rather stop doing it and just go to conventions and have fun than be known as, oh, that guy got a paycheck.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this to support myself. I'm doing this because when I look on the shelf and see my name on that book, I want to be proud that my name's on that book.
Yep. There you go.
That's the thing. All right, man. We've been on for an hour.
Oh my God. All right.
I'm gonna cut the rest of the Webiverse break and cut this off. Thank you, Levi. I wanted you to be my first guy on here. I respect the shit out of what you're doing. Very happy you were able to do this. And thank you, no people who watched this live. Anyway, I'm Skeeter Green. That's Levi Combs. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.